everybody, and welcome to Ad America TV. My name is Jasmine. I'm one of the e-guides at Ad America, and I would like to welcome all of our audience members joining us online tonight. We hope you all are doing well and staying safe. Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. We have temporarily moved to a solely digital platform so you can enjoy all of our events in the comfort of your own home. So for those of you joining us today, don't forget to leave all of your questions at the comment box section, and our panelists will answer them during this event. So tonight, we will be discussing World's Ocean Day, how COVID-19 affects our ocean. But before we begin, let's break the ice with a little game as usual on all of our events. Are there any positive impacts on the ocean due to COVID-19? I'll repeat the question one more time. Are there any positive impacts on the ocean due to COVID-19? So stay tuned until the end of the program and we will give live shout outs for those of you who answered the question correctly. You can answer the question through commenting on each platform through whatever platform you are joining us today. And also don't forget to take a selfie and tag Ad America's Instagram account to show everybody that you're having a great time tonight. And also, without further ado, I would like to invite our moderator for tonight. Please give a warm welcome for Nesha Ichida. But before I give it to her, I would like to give a little introduction about who she is. So our moderator for tonight, Nesha Ichida, is the co-founder and advisory board of Divers Clean Action, or in short, DCA. Nesha graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Natural Sciences through the Open University in the United Kingdom. She co-founded DCA with Thenia and Theo with the goal of combining their love of diving, science, and environmentalism to map marine debris through engagement of citizen science. As the project evolved further and engaged more youth, she loved how DCA was becoming a melting pot for youth change makers to collaborate and make a support system for each other. She currently plays an advisory role to the rest of the DCA team and is usually present in other roles on different events. Currently, her full-time job is working as a marine conservation biologist, focusing on sharks and rays, along with community development on the Sabu Sea region of Indonesia under the Indonesian Manta Ray or Thrive Conservation. Hello, Mbak Nesha. How are you doing tonight?
I'm very good, thanks. Thanks for inviting me to moderate.
And also thank you for joining us. I'm a little sad that because of COVID-19, we couldn't go out diving, but let's hope that there will be some positive things for us to see in the ocean once all of this is over. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be moderating this session, and we'll be speaking a lot about the climate change and also the effects of the COVID-19 on our ocean. And we have a guest speaker to talk about like accessible public information and how important health of the environment and our health is very much interconnected. So it's super exciting and I can't wait to introduce you guys to all the speakers. But first of all, I wanted to talk about the Earth Optimism campaign that the US Embassy has started. I think like Earth optimism is very much needed, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. You can very much easily feel super depressed and anxiety attack at home, not being able to be around nature. Myself, being in an apartment for 100 days without nature, very much like taking a toll on me. But I'm very much optimist on what's going on the planet right now, especially the part that there's so much awareness raising going on everywhere on the internet, and every activist is just full on still working and making sure everyone is still aware of what's going on the planet. So that makes me super optimist on like when we come out of this COVID-19, it's going to be full on campaigning and making the earth a better place. And without further ado, I'm waiting if the speaker is here yet.
Hi, Nesha. Maybe you can introduce all the speaker first.
Sure thing. So our speaker, the first speaker is Ms. Dia Roro Esti Widya Putri from the Commission 7 Parliament of Indonesia. She'll be basically talking about climate action and why is it very relevant to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our second speaker is Beginner Suban from the Bogor Agricultural University, and he'll be talking about the effects of the pandemic and COVID-19 on our Coral Triangle, because it's, by the way, Coral Triangle Day. I forgot to say that. Happy Coral Triangle Day, everyone, and also happy belated World Ocean Day. Our third speaker is Dr. Intan Suci Nurhati. She's a researcher for marine debris at LIPI, and she'll be talking about marine pollution and how it's related to the pandemic. And our fourth speaker is Yeyen and Christy, two speakers actually. One is from CISDI and Diverse Clean Action. They'll be talking about accessible public information on like health and environment goes hand in hand, and also responsible PPE use for the public. So I'm very excited about that. And just a reminder to everyone to ask a lot of questions on those various social media that you're basically watching this from. And don't be afraid to ask it in Bahasa Indonesia. I'll help translate it to our speaker. And yeah, and don't forget to answer the first question that Jasmine just said in the beginning. Okay. Oh, she's here. Great. So without further ado, I want to introduce our first speaker, the Honorable Ibu Dia Roro Esti Widya Putri. She's from the Commission 7 Parliament of Indonesia. I'll be introducing you. She finished her master's degree in Imperial College London, majoring in environmental technology, pollution management to be specific. She founded and is a chair at the Indonesian Energy and Environmental Institute since 2017. Her NGO envisions a unified collaborative effort amongst different sectors in solving the issue of climate change with the goal of creating a sustainable future in Indonesia. Currently, she is a member of the Commission 7 Indonesian House of Representatives, DPR RI, which oversees energy, mineral resources, research and technology, and environmental affairs. Wow, that's a big title. I'm super excited to hear your talk. So take it away, Ibu Roro.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the really kind introduction. Firstly, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Om Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to Diverse Clean Action, to At America, for hosting such an incredible event. I think it's so crucial and so important to continuously discuss issues pertaining to sustainability, because that's the only way we can, number one, get the word around, but to also make the changes that is necessary, whether it be from the legislative side, but also from the minister level side, from the NGO perspective, and also other institutions alike. And so today, in light of the topic and the theme, really, I will be talking about how Indonesia can boost climate action during but also post-pandemic. And of course, by pandemic, I mean the COVID-19 pandemic that we are currently experiencing today. Next. So the introduction was already mentioned earlier, but just to quickly add on, I'm a representative from the East Java district, so representing the city of Gresik and Lamongan. And I'm also the secretary of the Green Economy Caucus at the Indonesian Parliament. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what we do at the caucus later on by the end of my presentation, just because this relates directly to not only our theme, but also our goal, essentially to create a sustainable future for Indonesia. Next. So as mentioned earlier, I'm a member of the Commission 7 at the Indonesian Parliament, and we have a variety of working partners. So when we talk about the ministry side, we are partnered with the Ministry of Energy, and Mineral Resources, and also the Ministry of Research and Technology. But also we are partnered with non-ministerial governmental institutions. So we have, just to name a few, institutions like BPPT, or Badan Pengkajian dan Penerapan Teknologi, or others like LIPI, Lembaga Ilmu Pengetahuan Indonesia, and also with several oil and gas industries that are currently operating in Indonesia. Next. And there are, as you all know already, there are a variety of different functions in the parliamentary system. And there are three main ones, which pertains to legislation. So we create the legislations alongside the minister, and also the budgeting aspect and supervision. So given the programs that are currently being undertaken by the government, we have every right to either comment, to either give feedback, and even complain, whether in terms of whether they are actually doing their job according to what has been presented to us. So that is the very essence of the role in which parliamentarians have in DPR, or the House of Representatives. And next, I'd like to kind of shed light with regards to the impact of COVID-19 or the pandemic on the environment. So when we look into sort of just early observations, so this is, I think, dating still in 2020, so early 2020, from data projected by NASA and also the European Space Agency satellites. And they have shown how levels of air pollution have dropped around the world. So we have the example of, for example, China. When we talk about the particulate matter pollution, it has essentially decreased on an average of 35%. And also with regards to the nitrogen dioxide, that's decreased by an average of 60% after the lockdowns have began in January. Bearing in mind also that China started, they've started the lockdown earlier than any other country. And so we have seen environmental impacts or environmental effects on the environment on a very much earlier stage in comparison to other countries around the world. Okay, and then if we go to the next slide, we see that in Europe, the nitrogen dioxide concentrations, and this is ranging from around March until April, and this has also decreased quite substantially, whether it be in areas such as Madrid, Milan, Rome. They've seen a decrease of around 45%, and for example in Paris, they've seen a dramatic drop of 54%. And so as you can see, the COVID-19 pandemic, given the measures that's been taken by society in general, how everybody can, no longer stay outside of the house, they have to carry on their day-to-day activities inside, indoors. It turns out that this has tremendously made an incredible impact to the environment, particularly with regards to air quality and also overall greenhouse gas emissions. Next. Right, and so as mentioned earlier as well, we've seen some positive impacts. We see better air quality, decrease of greenhouse gas emissions, but there's also some negative side effects. And this is definitely something that I feel we need to pay attention to. There has been an increase in infectious waste by 300% during the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's found in rivers, in beaches. And so we need to definitely improve our medical waste management system, not only in Indonesia, but really just around the world. Next. And so these are just images from a variety of different cities across the world. So we have images from Florence in Italy, London in the UK, Jakarta in Indonesia, Paris in France, and you can see that not only the sky is clearer, but also the streets are a lot emptier. And this has definitely played a huge impact in the betterment, not only of the environment, but I feel that, this has given the earth an opportunity to really just breathe for a bit, given the decrease in human activity since the pandemic has started. So the bigger picture, if we go to the next slide, yeah. So the bigger picture here is, what can we do during the pandemic, right? So what are some of the climate actions that we can do during this pandemic? Firstly, depends on which country you reside in and which city you reside in as well, given the measures that are being implemented by the regional governments, by the central government. As we know, in Indonesia, there are several areas that have implemented the PSBB, right? And so understanding that whether these initiatives are being relaxed by the government, that means that some people are required to go back to work, to go back to their offices, but also whether if it's possible for you to stay at home and continue to work from home, I think that it's best for you to still opt for this option. Better safe than sorry, for your own sake, but also for the environment, as you can see that's made significant impact on our environment. And also, walking or cycling. I've seen a lot of people, even my friends, in the parliament, and even my friends in general, I see them still going out, particularly in the weekends, in the mornings, and cycling around, and really just trying to target areas that are not too crowded. And I think this is really good, not only for our health, but also for the environment generally, right? And so really just choosing means of transportation that are environmentally more friendly, as opposed to ones that directly impact pollution levels in any respective area. And given that there's been an increase in activities at home, I think we should still be conscious as to how we use up our electricity. Energy conservation at home is still very vital. We have to take extra care with waste management, and also use social media as a means to communicate steps in addressing climate issues, for example. I think social media is a very powerful tool to get your message across. And I think this is the time to really optimize it, to make the difference, to see the change that you want to see in the world. So optimizing on social media and using social media for work purposes as well, or just technology generally, is really just the way forward from this point. And keep the conversations going, watch documentaries, and really just educate yourself. Next. And so aside from all of this, I'd like to point out where we are currently as a nation with regards to climate action as a whole. So Indonesia has signed what's called the COP21, or Conference of the Parties Paris Agreement, back in 2015. And for those who don't know, this is essentially a goal, a long-term goal really, of keeping global average temperatures to well below 2% and even 1.5%. And there are 195 signatories around the world. And Indonesia, I can proudly say, that we have ratified this Paris Agreement, and we have established the NDC as well. And this is known as the Nationally Determined Contributions, which has been translated into Law Number 16, year 2016, or Undang-Undang Nomor 16 Tahun 2016. Next. So if we look closely at the NDC, it focuses primarily on several sectors. Okay, so there's the energy sector, waste sector, IPPU, agriculture, and also forestry sector. These are the most dominant sectors when it comes to the greenhouse gas emissions generally in Indonesia. And I'm going to pay close attention to the energy sector, primarily because this is what we've been working on in Commission 7 at the Parliament. And I'd like to give you guys an update so you know where we're at, but in terms of where we stand in Parliament today. Next. And so, given that we've signed the Paris Agreement, that's been translated into a law, legally binding, okay, which is great. And we also have what's called the National Energy Policy, or Kebijakan Energi Nasional, and that's been translated into a law as well, a binding law. And we have an overall goal of achieving 23% renewables by the year 2025. Okay, and so this has been kind of monitored on a regional aspect as well, through the National Energy Plan and also the Regional Energy Plan, and that's been implemented in various provinces across the country. Next. And this is also really just a way for us, it's proven to really just prove that we are underway, and we are very much committed in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. So when we talk about, for example, renewable energy, we're talking about SDG 7, so affordable and clean energy, and also 13 pertaining to climate action. And so in terms of electricity generation, we are currently at 12.2% renewables. If we go to the next slide, we are currently at 12.2% renewables at the moment, in which most of the energy source for electricity generation in Indonesia comes from coal. Sadly enough, we're still a fossil fuel dominated economy at the moment, but that is bound to change. I can reassure you that as the years go by, I expect our energy mix to change as the years go by, and for us to really just optimize on more renewable resources going forward. And so next. We see several areas that's implemented renewable energy in Indonesia. So we've seen the implementation of wind turbines in Sulawesi, also solar panels again in Sulawesi, and then hydropower in Java, as well as geothermal also optimized in Java. Bearing in mind that Indonesia is a very large country, we have a tremendous potential, but also each island, each province, each city, has their own specialty. So we cannot force, for example, solar energy, which is very much more appropriate to be implemented in Nusa Tenggara Timur, for example, or Nusa Tenggara Barat, and for that to be forced to be applied elsewhere. So I think one of the homework that we have in Parliament, but also from the government side, is to really just plan out and really understand the potential that each area has in Indonesia. Next. Commission 7, as I said earlier, one of our responsibilities is supervision. Okay, so we supervise what the government is currently doing, and we have actually visited one of the power plants, the solar power plants installation in NTT, Nusa Tenggara Timur. This is still a small scale, so it's 5 megawatts, but it's proven to overcome the frequent blackouts in the Timor region, and also it's contributed around 4% towards the total electricity demand in the Timor region as well. So I've seen firsthand how this has been implemented, but I've also seen the faces of society residing in that area and seeing how happy they are given this innovation, and how that's really just impacted their daily lives. And seeing that that's impacted society in a positive way, that, to be honest, for me personally, that's really just pushed me to motivate me to keep going with regards to renewable energy installation all over the country. And just a couple of last slides I'd like to present to you guys. Another update from the Parliament. Next slide. We have successfully enacted the Renewable Energy Bill, or Undang-Undang Energi Baru Terbarukan, as a priority for 2020 up until the 2024 period. So I'm just hoping that we can get this done by the end of the term. Please pray that this goes according to well, because there are so many challenges associated to it. But I'm just so proud that we were able to push this through, given that there were a lot of focus primarily on the coal sector and also the oil and gas sector. But given that now, representatives in Parliament are very much keen on pushing a legislation that is not only relevant for 5 years down the line, right, which is how long we're in office, but really just a legislation that can be felt 20 years down the line or 50 years down the line. And this is the very essence of sustainability going forward. So next. As mentioned earlier, we have the Green Economy Caucus, and the Green Economy Caucus is a caucus at the Indonesian Parliament comprising of members from different commissions across the parliament, and also ranging from different political parties. And we recognize, and this is something that I learned in university as well, at Imperial College London. I remember they were very much adamant in putting us to remember that climate action, or ways of solving climate change, means that we have to collaboratively work together. So an interdisciplinary approach is so crucial. We cannot move alone. So even the parliamentarians, us in DPR, we have to work alongside the government, but we have to also work alongside NGOs, civil society organizations. We have to work alongside activists, the private and public sectors. And the key that we have going on at the Green Economy Caucus is to really just open up the discussion, and to make sure that transparency is there with regards to the implementation of regulations at the Indonesian Parliament. So going forward, we're going to have a lot of discussions, and we'll be inviting, and we'll be very much open to discuss with various sectors with regards to sustainability, and really just creating a sustainable future for Indonesia. And in light of World Oceans Day, I'd like to give an update also with regards to what we've done in Parliament. And this was enacted actually in October. So last year, October 2019. And I felt that it was very, very important for us to not only talk in Parliament, right? To not only discuss policies, but to also lead by example. And so I found it quite ironic talking about, the dangers of plastic pollution, considering that we're the second largest plastic polluter behind China. These really scary facts about where we are as a nation, but also have in front of us plastic bottles. And I just felt that that was really counterproductive. And so what we did in Parliament during the plenary session, I raised this concern and kind of just pushed for us to no longer use plastic bottles in Parliament, and that's been successfully enacted until today. And so if we look at the next slide, we see several examples of how there are no longer plastic bottles in meetings, and this ranges across commissions at the Indonesian Parliament up until the plenary sessions. So the sessions with the Speaker of the House, right, and the Vice Speakers of the House, but also with the ministers and also members of Parliament. We see that these changes are happening, and that we just needed, a push for us to change our lifestyles. Next, if you can just skip this one because I mentioned it earlier. Okay. And lastly, I'd just like to touch on, your role in climate action generally. As mentioned before, climate action is a multidisciplinary approach, and so we have to work together. We cannot work alone, and that is why the very essence of gotong royong is so important, because everyone plays an important role. So your homework here today is to understand where you lie, what you can bring to the table, and do not give up. That is, the very essence of trying to achieve things together and collectively. Get involved in organizations or institutions that promote sustainability. You can also contribute to knowledge through research. So if you're an academic, you're still in university, do research around climate change, sustainability, pollution management. There are so many different topics that you can touch on, and make sure you research about Indonesia, because that's we're lacking research on our own country, and in my opinion. And this is very important because it feeds information to parliamentarians, it feeds information to the government, and this type of knowledge is very much needed for us to push scientific-based policies at the Indonesian Parliament together with the minister. Work on the renewables energy sector. You can start a company. And activism is key. So continuously spreading the message as to how we can live a sustainable lifestyle. Don't give up. That is the ultimate key. I know sometimes working in the sector, because I've been in the CSO sector for a couple of years now with the Indonesian Energy and Environmental Institute. And I know how tough it could be to work alongside either the local governments or the government generally, and also trying to get people to change their behaviors. It's a challenge in itself, but the very essence here is to not give up, believe in yourself, and make sure that you guys work together in order to create a sustainable future. So that's it from me. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope that was useful to everyone.
Thank you so much, Ibu Roro, on that amazing presentation. What, like, full of optimism, honestly, what your presentation. And like, thank you for like putting collaboration and giving advice on like the younger generation that everyone can do something even when they're at home. And like how amazing it is to hear about the renewable energy sector moving forward in Indonesia. I was there in the Paris conference.
Awesome.
So it was amazing that it's actually moving forward. So to everyone asking question, please continue asking question. Not every day you get a member of the parliament specifically for the environment that you can ask question directly to. For the ones raising their hands, just put your question in or wait until the Q&A session. So thank you so much, Ibu Roro. I'm gonna pass it to the next speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, and Ibu Roro will be here until the end of the session, so don't worry, guys. Okay, so the next speaker is actually a dear friend of mine. Beginner Suban is, he's from the Department of Marine Science and Technology of IPB University, the Bogor Agricultural University. He finished his graduate, master's, and graduate degree in IPB University. Majoring in marine science, he is a faculty member of the Department of Marine Science and Technology and head of the Scientific Diving Laboratory of IPB University. He's also a diving instructor and a drone pilot, combined with coral finder trainer, greenfins assessor, and marine scientist. He's actually one of the marine scientists that I've had the pleasure to learn from. So he's going to be talking about the state of the coral reef, especially the coral triangle during this pandemic. So on to you, Bang Begin.
Hi everyone, thank you, Nessa, for the very warm introduction. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's an honor for me to speak, to share some information about the coral triangle, and then it is the day of coral triangle, and then hopefully, my presentations will give some overview what happened in our coral triangle during the pandemic. And as mentioned from Nesha, our moderator, my name is Beginner Subhan. Now I'm working in IPB University as a faculty member and also a researcher. So, and thank you very much for the Dive Clean Action for inviting me in this event. And then let's start. Firstly, I want to refresh. Probably some of you don't know where the coral triangle, or we can see in the next slide. Coral triangle is initiative from several governments and nations from Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Timor-Leste, Papua, and Solomon Islands. And coral triangle is a marine region that probably 500 species of rebuilding corals, and the coral triangle is composed of two biogeographic regions, Indonesian and Philippines regions, and also the far southwest Pacific regions. If we talk about the coral triangles, we not only talk about the biodiversity, but also about the fisheries and also food securities. The one of the most important things in coral triangles. Next. So this is some fact of coral triangles. It's about 6 million kilometers area, and then in that area we can see about 76% of the coral species. It's about 905 species in coral triangle, and in the world is 798 coral species, and it's claimed as the highest coral diversity in the world. And as we know, the epicenter of the coral diversity is found in Birdhead Peninsula of Indonesia, Papua. As we see in the background is one of the picture in the Birdhead. I took this picture in Misol area, so very interesting area. And then probably in Birdhead we can found about 574 species. Oh, very huge number species in that area. So one of the place that you should visit before you die. And then marine turtles in that area, we can find 6 of 7. Especially we can find leatherback turtles, and then water coral reef fish, we can find more than 2,000 species in coral triangle. So if you dive in coral triangle, for me as a marine scientist, it's very hard to identify the fishes in the coral triangle, especially in the epicenter, in the Birdhead seascape. Is if you jump in the water, you can see about hundreds of fishes and in the different species. And why the coral reefs, coral triangle important? Because it sustains about 120 million people in that area, and it's about 12 billion the US dollar for the diving industry. So that's why the coral triangle is a very important, not only for us in Indonesia, also for people in the world. And then also so many cetaceans that we can see in the coral triangles, like the blue whales, sperm whales, and dugongs, and also those dolphin and porpoise. Next. So as I mentioned, this is the distribution of the coral dugongs in Indonesia. So mostly we can see they distribute mostly in coral triangle area. So the triangle area is most likely the habitat of the more recent appearance of the dugongs in Indonesia. Next. And also this is the distribution of the whale shark. So if we see in the coral triangles, so many reports and so many individu, yeah, so many individu whale shark that we can found, and mostly in Kuatisore, and then Botubarni, also Talisayang, which is they are in coral triangle. And also we have information for also in the Philippines that they also we can find a lot of whale shark in that area. Next. So what happened in coral triangle during pandemic? So this is a big question for us. Are they very happy or sad, or just like Kak Roro mentioned, that the environmental is better, and if we see the air quality? So what happened in coral triangle? So mostly in coral triangle area, the pressure are lower because a lot of activity like transportation, and fishing activity, some fishing, a big fishing activity is stopped, and in the small island also the tourism is a stop. Whether tourism activity is they have a positive and negative impact. At the end, I will talk a little bit about the tourism in Coral Triangle. So I will show you another fact that we can see during the pandemic, that the situation that we may not control. So I try to search information about the seawater temperature from NOAA. This is the simulation data in during pandemic about start from May and until June. So you see the alert, the red area. So in Coral Triangle, some part of Coral Triangle is exposed to warm water, and some area also suffer from the coral bleaching. So that's the information. And sadly, we cannot monitor the situation because diving activity cannot allowed by the in that situation. So, but I tried to find. I found some information from friends that have an opportunity to collect information or diving. And the next slide, next. So in some area in Sanur, in April, they found about bleaching. Some coral bleaching happened in Sanur in April, and also in Pemutaran in May. Some they hit by warm water and then start to bleach. And last week, I got the information from Python near the in East Java. Some places also exposed by coral bleaching. I think that was a sad fact that we found during the pandemic. But that's the bleaching even is we cannot control the condition, but and also the condition is naturally happen in the ocean. So the important things are probably some area also hit by bleaching, but no report on it. So please, guys, if you have information about the bleaching during the pandemic, you can share with me, and then we can collect all the data and give the government, because the bleaching, we need to take action about the bleaching event, because in new normal there will more pressure to coral reef area, because they start to open the tourism activity in the some areas. Next. But there is some happy story during pandemic. So some friends share picture. They have an opportunity to diving, and then in some spot they meet whale shark or the charismatic organism, yes, like manta or dugongs. That the condition rarely happen before pandemic. So some, because few activity during the pandemic in the ocean, so people just calling the animal to come closer, and then to see the to come closer and closer and go around the sites that they can they feel safe. I think that's important things. Just like in Italy, yeah, the dolphin come to near the shore for swimming because there is no activity. And also in Sanur, my friends informed that a lot of fishermen, like she said that, oh, in Sanur is like a fishing festival, yeah, because probably a lot of fish are come to near shore because they feel safe and they can swim around because there is no activity. Boat activity is very low, and then yeah, they can the fish can close to the near shore. Next. And then what happened in diving industry? So if we talk about the coral triangle, we not only talk about the biodiversity, but also the people in that area, and also the economic thing that we should consider. So PUSI, yeah, the organization of the tourism industries, they have a survey to the diving activity in all over Indonesia. In here, they...
Bang Begin, just
yes,
to remind you the time, you've got 3 minutes left.
Okay. I only have 2 slides.
Great, just letting you know.
And this is the diving industry. You see in the graph, in Bali, Kalimantan Timur, Sulawesi Utara, and Nangro Aceh Darussalam, they have lost about 75.8 million, and there is a lot of workers are impacted. So some of them is yeah, they don't have job now, and some industry in Labuan Bajo, we have information that some boat is sinking because there is no worker in they cannot hire the worker, they cannot pay it, and so during the heavy strong wind and then heavy wave, the boat sinking. So it's fact that we can find in during the pandemic. Next. Now this is the happy things, yeah, about the shark and ray market. So during the pandemic, the researchers said that the trading of the shark and rays is dropped. So especially in the West Nusa Tenggara. So this is good thing, yeah, because the pressure of the fishing is stopped. So there is a time to ocean, to the species to make refreshment. So the population make refreshment, and then that's a good thing for the ocean. Next. Okay, for all of you guys, this is I want to share my favorite quote for you guys, and this is don't wait for inspiration to start a thing. Action always generates inspiration. So let's do anything you can do for the world, and then let's see what happens next. Thank you very much. Happy Ocean Day. Happy Coral Triangle Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bang Begin, for that amazing presentation and for letting us know what's going on with the coral reef in Indonesia as well. I didn't know bleaching was going on. I heard definitely some marine life are coming around because there's less tourists, but also there's some impact of like some fishing as well, but also a combination of like no restaurants, so no one's buying shark fin, so the shark fin trade has dropped. It's like a mixture of like ups and downs what's going on in Indonesia. So guys, ask a lot of questions to Bang Begin and on the Q&A session, and I will be forwarding into the next speaker all about marine pollution, Dr. Intan Suci Nurhati. She's a researcher for marine debris at LIPI. She obtained her PhD degree in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences with certificate in Environmental Public Policy from Georgia Institute of Technology in the USA. During her research stay at Geomar in Kiel, Germany, Dr. Intan studied signatures
Intan, say Intan, seriously.
Need to be said doctor because it's cool.
Okay.
Dr. Intan studied signature. Ooh, all of a sudden I got sorry. Studied signature of anthropogenic climate change on Indonesian seas over the past centuries by focusing on geochemical signals of coral skeletons. That's really cool. Corals build annual layers of calcium carbonate as they grow, so the chemistry of this material locks in environmental conditions and makes it possible to track past changes such as temperature, rainfall, and ocean acidification. Her awards include 2019 National Geographic Women of Impact, 2019 74 Econ Pancasila by the Government of Indonesia, 2018 LIPI Young Scientist Award by the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, LIPI, and 2014 Best Young Scientist Award by the IOC Subcommission of the Western Pacific UNESCO. So without further ado, Dr. Intan, take it away.
Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you at America and DCA, so we can all stay connected in this special day, special week indeed. It's Coral Triangles and World Ocean Day. So my name is Intan, but I'm presenting it on behalf of Tim Telipi Sampah LIPI, which is right now 5 of us of different expertise. So what I'm going to share you today is actually totally fresh from the oven data about the impact of pandemics on plastics from households, because everybody's at home, most of us are at home, so we have to really focus on what's going on in terms of our households' plastic emissions. Next, all right, I'm having a little bit jamming here. All right, so here's the team. I'm actually a climate scientist by training. I'm involved in the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, but I do marine pollution issue on the side, mainly because I've been dragged by my colleague, Reza Cordova, who's, all of you, he's really been leading on this issue. But in this team, we have environmental economists, we have wizards of statistics, and we also have scientists that have focus in environmental law. So because if we want to solve the issue, we should not just dive the environments, but we also have to dive people's heart. So that's the main point of this study. So you all here because you care about the environments and that we are supposedly number 2 of plastic emitters. But once again, these are based on modeling studies. So at LIPI, we really want to put science-based data, really based on in-situ data to calibrate all of this information. So last year, we published this paper, basically using in-situ data for 2 years. There's 8.3 tons of plastics flow into Jakarta Bay daily. Every single day is 8.3 tons. And the majority, or 59%, are plastics. So you can read more about this. It's a scientific paper, but it's a very simple scientific paper wording, because we really want to, what we want to do with this paper is that people from emerging countries can repeat this study. So Mbak Roro has talked about this. Are we winner or are we losers? So we have seen ecological rebounds. We have seen better air quality and carbon footprint. But we also have an issue with more plastics from PPE. But I want to add more into this perspective in terms of timeline. So ecological rebound, better air quality, those are short term. Once hopefully COVID-19 is gone, we're gonna go back to our new normal unless we do something very special. But the issue with more plastic right now is gonna be a long-lasting issue because plastic lasts for 100 to 1,000 years. So really put the timing into this perspective. So like DCA people, we can't go diving. I'm a diver, so I miss being in the oceans. But as a scientist, we also can't get data. I mean, Reza go out into the field, into the rivers, but during the pandemic, we just stay at home and we worry about plastic pollution from households. So we decided that we're gonna do an online survey. We do online survey in Jabodetabek area, as well as 6 provinces that we feel are gonna be dominant. So the key here is that during normal condition, we are all out and about in the office, in the malls, in the public space. But during the pandemic, everybody's at home. And then we rely on online deliveries that has bubble wrap, has cable tie, and all this plastic stuff in it, just for packaging. So we had respondents of about more than 1,000 people responded to our survey, which is great. And let's see what they say. So this is from Jabodetabek. So on the left is the online package in terms of package. And on the right is the online deliveries for ready meals. So like GoFood, GrabFood, PhD delivery, you name it, right? So we see in Jabodetabek, most of people really increase their online shopping for package and for ready meals deliveries. The numbers is up to 62% for package and is 47% for ready meals. And this is unique to Jabodetabek, because once we compare it to different provinces, which is on below, so it's the same thing. The left is package, the right is things like GrabFood. In other provinces, some people increase their online delivery, online shopping, but some people decrease their online shopping. So it kind of evens out. But in Jabodetabek, we all increase, we engage more in online shopping. This complicated diagram is called Sankey Diagram, basically showing, again, what's the frequency. So in Jabodetabek, as well as national, I'm just going to say it quickly. So before the pandemic, we used to do 1 to 5 times per month for online shopping, but now it's 1 to 10. So kind of increased by twice, especially in Jabodetabek area. So what do people buy? So the most popular items are, of course, foods, and it's not just ready meals. People start buying dry foods and wet foods like meats and vegetables and so on. But what's the rocketing is that people bought more disinfectant, medicines, and PPE. So if you look at PPE here, it used to be just 4.6%. Now it's 34.6%. And we know PPE is made of plastic. So we have major plastic contributions for just buying online now from the item as well as the packaging. And this data is pretty much robust for also other provinces. And we asked them, so of things that you receive, how many of them have plastic packaging materials? And right now it's about 96%. So we know some sellers are very environmentally friendly, but those are still very, very minority. Even in the Jakarta, in Jabodetabek area, they actually said that the amount of plastic from packaging rivals the amount of plastic from the container themselves. So for example, if you buy shampoo, which have plastic container, and that shampoo will be delivered in plastic packaging, it's about the same amount of plastic. So you double your plastic waste by buying online. But I do still encourage buying online because it helps people's economy. Just buy it more environmentally friendly. And what are those materials? Packaging tape, plastic sheets, bubble wrap, robustly are the top 3 plastic packaging items that we see across the country. And then we ask again, so people use more plastics for PPEs, for health concern. What do they feel about plastic, hindering the COVID-19 virus? well, they actually feel that no, it doesn't help. Plastic doesn't help them to not get exposed to COVID virus, because a majority will still wash their plastic, spray their plastic with disinfectants, let it sit in the sun, and so on, which is good because COVID-19 can actually stick in the surface of plastic for up to 3 days, which is longer than, for example, cardboard and stainless steel. So yes, you do receive your plastic, but please always clean them up. Oh, this slide broke our heart. So we asked people, so who is the most responsible for plastic issue? 50% say me. And then we say, how do you feel about sorting plastic waste? Do you think it's important to sort plastic? And 98% yes, it's important and it's very, very important. But then we asked, do you sort your plastic waste? Half of the room left. So almost all of us know the importance of this, but only half of us actually do. So we spend so much energy to increase the awareness through media, through DCA, to NGO, which is great job, but missions accomplished right now for awareness. What we need to do is people start to talk the talk and walk the walk. We need to transform our awareness, which is very high, thanks to all of these efforts, into actions. And we have to be inclusive. People have to be engaged in it. I don't really blame consumer for saying no to recycle, because some people would say, I don't even know where my recycling things go, right? So we have to make them feel the ownership of this issue. And we also have to have a better, what's your measure outcome, you know? Not just putting interventions, but measure it before and after. That is very important. So then we ask again, okay, we want to know how's the situation with plastic management in their neighborhood. Jabodetabek is pretty high maintenance, I would say. It's very well serviced. So when we ask, about 28.8% actually have their waste collected daily, and only a few percentage do not have service. So you can see the graph is increasing, but in outside Jabodetabek is about even out. So a lot of people actually do not have service to collect their waste, which is a problem when you have more waste at this point. Okay, these figures showing our existing conditions and recommended condition based on what people say, not based on what LIPI says at this point. So we asked them, okay, you feel like your plastic emissions is going up. Is the waste collection efforts is more frequent now in your neighborhood? And people will say, majority of them say it stay the same. And then we ask them, do you feel it should be more frequent? 35% say yes, but then a lot of people also say, no, it's okay, it can stay the same. So what it means is that, yeah, there's an importance of increasing the numbers, the frequency when we know that our waste emissions is higher during the pandemic. So the end of the story is really increase in our landfill. So when we ask our respondents, what do you do to your plastic before and after the pandemic? Most of them, they said they recycle less, they reuse less because maybe they're afraid of COVID-19, and they just thrown it away more. We see even in developed countries, they reduce their recycling effort for health reasons. And we see in Indonesia, in Jabodetabek and other provinces, that people are less willing to recycle because of COVID-19, although it's a very small amount. And we ask, where do your plastic and where do your household waste, plastic and non-plastic go? Most of it is really landfill. So landfill is really having a hard time now, keep receiving all this plastic unless we start doing something better at household level. Okay, I keep this in Indonesian language. So what can we do on a very personal level? At this point, we need to keep online shopping. We do need to a large degree. Let's support sellers who are very environmentally friendly. They are a very minority of them, and they are doing this at the expense of making their price higher. But this is a matter of externality, and we have to pay those externality. And if your sellers are not environmentally conscious, you can just ask more. Like, can you reduce the plastic for me for this package? And you can also buy things in a bulk. Just compile all your needs in one package so you don't have as many plastics when they arrive. And definitely reuse plastic. Sort the plastic. Maybe we can increase from 50% to maybe hopefully 75%. That would be great. And also, because I'm a climate scientist, I was thinking about it. I should buy from sellers who are closer to me, because that would actually reduce the amount of greenhouse gases. So we are in it together. There is you in solution. There is us in solution. So let's work on this issue together. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Intan, for that amazing presentation. Guys, don't forget to add more questions on for Dr. Intan. In the meantime, before we move on to the side of information and everything else, I would like to bridge this session with a quick question to Kak Roro. There's a couple of questions here just to keep everyone engaged, that people can ask questions. And this is like a combination of questions from Sweetenia and, wait, let me read the name, Torresia Angeswara. And like, I think this is like an amazing question.
Yeah.
As a youth yourself, and to be part of the parliament at a very young age, we, of course, like as youth, we've got a lot of optimism for the planet, and because it is our home for the next 50 years. So we have to have that. But of course, for some people who's a lot older than us and have seen so many legislation and laws, they sometimes easily feel like hopeless with all of our governments is doing. So right. In the 5-year period that you will be in the parliament, how much do you believe that change will come as quick as we expect it to be? And as a youth yourself, what can the normal youth do other than, the normal things that we can do at home, but also to fast track this change into pushing the governments to do it faster and making sure that it's a change, not just a law?
Okay, so that's a very good question, right? So how do we stay optimistic amidst all of these assumptions that we have, of course, about the parliament and how the system works? And of course, before entering parliament, and even in the beginning, I was quite apprehensive, right? I thought, can we really make the changes that we want? Is it really that possible? And I think, small actions done repetitively create big impacts. And we started off with the initiative of stopping plastic bottles in meetings at the parliament. And there were, I wouldn't say criticisms, but people were very much, they were questioning whether that was possible or not. So a couple of other parliamentarians were saying to me, hati-hati loh, like belum tentu disetujui sama ketua DPR-nya atau pimpinannya gitu. So they were like, it might not be approved by the seniors in parliament, particularly the Speaker of the House. But I had a lot of faith in the system generally, because I think that what DPR needed is really just somebody who was brave enough to voice something out, just as a means of seeing, whether that is possible to do or not. And I think the response has been so incredible. So as soon as I voiced it out in the plenary session, the next day there were no plastic bottles anywhere in sight. And so that impact was, in my opinion, very tremendous. And although, of course, in terms of scale, it's quite small, right? Because we're just talking about the parliament building, not about Indonesia as a nation. But these are just the steps that we need to take. Small steps done repetitively will create big impacts, as I said earlier. And is, for example, the Renewable Energy Law bill possible to be enacted, implemented successfully within the next 5 years? Again, we have to start with optimism. There are, of course, several research. I've read several research really just outlining how we will not be able to achieve the 25% target by 2025. Sorry, 23% target. And there are a variety of different reasons for this. Initially, it was because we didn't have the law necessary. We didn't have the renewable energy law that could help bridge this gap in really just realizing this potential and this goal. And also, there is an issue with pricing, given the fact that renewables are more expensive in comparison to fossil fuel generated energy sources. And when we talk about oil and gas, when we talk about coal, these are resources that are much more cheaper in comparison to renewable energy. Although right now solar energy is more competitive. And during the meeting that we had with the Minister of Energy, Arifin Tasrif, I remember pointing out how there should be some sort of a research or a feasibility study with regards to the implementation of a carbon tax, just for the sake of putting it out there, just to see what the perspective is in government. And their response, is actually quite positive in a sense where they were very much motivated to conduct this feasibility study. And so going forward, this is something that we would like to look into in Parliament as well. And because we didn't have the initiative before, we didn't have the initiative of pushing through a renewables energy bill, that has of course hindered the possibility of achieving the 23% target. And so the hope here is that because it's been successfully being included in the legislation as priority, I hope that this will open the doors for us to be able to achieve these targets and to make renewable energy really just more competitive in the market. And as to the youth, what you can do, I've listed out a couple of things that you can do generally, but I think we can also shed light to really just the power of the people, getting everybody on board, getting everybody involved in discussions and getting your voices heard, and also the whole idea of the Green Economy Caucus is to really just open up discussion and transparency. So going forward, I hope that we can bridge that gap. And I hope that by working together and by us really listening into the insights, understanding the research that is out there, and whether it is feasible in terms of creating policies, etc., that is, of course, scientific based, this will definitely help the legislators to prioritize legislations that is really being needed by the nation. So there are a lot of ways that we can collaborate going forward. But again, today, I just want everybody today to really introspect and to really think about what your role is in creating a sustainable future, see what you can do, and then really just brainstorm as to how you guys can achieve things on a larger scale going forward. And again, of course, putting in mind the very importance of collaboration with everybody around you, including government, including legislators.
Thank you so much for that. That was very optimistic.
I mean, it's hard to stay optimistic, right? It's really hard, and especially being in the system. But I think given that we were able to successfully push that renewables bill law, which I thought was in a way quite impossible to do in the beginning, I was one of the very few that voiced out the importance of having that pushed into as a priority. And seeing that being done, I think has kind of increased my optimism a little more than I had before. So let's hope for the best going forward.
Yeah, and we're basically creating a new system, and it's never a fast thing to do.
Yeah.
There will be more questions for you at the Q&A session. With that, I would like to introduce our next speaker. Her name is Yayan Yanuariski. She is the Outreach and Partnership Coordinator of CISDI. Yayan spearheads a team of communication of aficionados at CISDI in strengthening public education and campaign on health development, youth empowerment, and sustainable development goals. Since March, the team has produced more than 120 contents and partnered with more than 40 communities and organizations to raise awareness on COVID-19 preventions and treatment. She's an alumni of LSPR Jakarta class of 2009, who spent her early career in global PR agency Weber Shedwick, Indonesia. She is also an alumni of the YES program sponsored by the US Department of State in 2007 and 2008. So without further ado, this is Yeyen. She'll be talking about accessible public information regarding health and environment. Take it away.
Thank you, Kak Nesha. Hi, everybody. I'm Yeyen. I'm the communication coordinator from CISDI. It's Center for Indonesia Strategic Development Initiatives. You can Google or find out more about us on Instagram and Twitter later on. And first of all, thank you so much for DCA for arranging this event. CISDI and DCA has partnered since March when we celebrated World Earth Day. And during that time, we had a little bit discussion about how the pandemic correlates with the environmental impact and what we can do together to do something about it. So I'm gonna share a little bit story about that. But first of all, it's also an honor for me to be among these amazing speakers. So thank you so much, DCA, for arranging this event, and in America also for arranging this event. Okay, so for public information. So for those of you who have not heard about CISDI and wondering what CISDI is, so CISDI is basically a think tank focusing on sustainable development goals through health development and youth empowerment. So what do we do then? So we do research review and policy analysis. We do research. And we do program implementation at grassroots level, especially for strengthening primary healthcare. And we also advocate for tobacco control. We also do policy review for nutrition, especially community nutrition. And also right now we're doing COVID response. So since March until June, CISDI has established our COVID-19 response team, where we did train more than 6,000 health workers who works at primary healthcare levels. And we also provided free rapid test and RT-PCR tests for our health workers in Jabodetabek area and Bandung area. At the same time, we also did public campaign and education. So I remember clearly it was March when the first case of COVID-19 entered in Indonesia and the president announced it, and we were thinking that COVID-19 is a new disease that information and other source of materials are probably still hard to find. That's why CISDI decided to go out there and produce more information and education materials for not only for us, but also for people who need it the most, so you can use it. Also, at the same time, we observed quite closely on how the government implemented the best policy possible during this unfortunate situation. Of course, all countries, more than 200 countries are affected by the COVID-19, but we really should do our best, especially the government should do their best, because even right now, when some government has implemented relaxation of PSBB, we really should take a closer look on that, because especially as we need to protect ourselves, starting from individual levels. So yeah, in March, during the increasing number of the COVID-19 confirmed cases in Indonesia, we took a look closer that the health workers worked harder and it impacted the influx of patients to the hospitals. Our health facilities were overwhelmed, and at that time we really didn't know what to do, especially public didn't know what to do. So we really wanted to do something that help people understand COVID-19. And so we have pictures of our health workers where they use protection, and well, they have to, because they're the one who take care of the patients. They're the one who provided essential cares for the COVID-19 patients, and they must be protected. So what can we do now? Well, the governments have implemented policies where they encourage us to do at least three things. First of all, we use masks everywhere and physical distancing. And for all of us who can stay at home, we do all of our activities from home, because that's at least the thing we can do to protect ourselves and protect our beloved ones and protect our community from infected by the COVID-19. But then that was also good. But then at the same time, we also faced another challenges where COVID-19, like Mbak Intan said before, that during the pandemic, the use of plastics, especially from the PPE, is increasing for the health workers. We really couldn't do anything else about it because they are the one who was in a high risk situation where they have to protect themselves with the complete PPE as possible. But then of course, the number of medical waste increased as a consequence to that, and we had statements from the Ministry of Health that during the COVID-19, there's a possible increase of medical waste per day, and then the Indonesian Environmental Scientists Association also noted that there's an increase of medical waste, but really our health workers are doing their best, so we really should support them the best we can. But then what can we do for us as on individual level and community level? So from our take, what CISDI has observed before and what we discussed with DCA, because since March, DCA and CISDI has really the strong concern on what we can do to share to our friends, to our peers, through whatever platforms we have to communicate this, and what can we do to mobilize people to minimize medical waste. And as Mbak Intan also previously said, that at Subnet, we have several things to do so that we can minimize the medical waste. First of all, at subnational levels, we can encourage our local government and subnational government to disinfect public facilities and health facilities and public transportation. And in individual levels, we should always do and make sure that we wash our hands as often as possible, because we don't know what we touch upon. And even the WHO also informed us that the virus can still stay on surfaces of objects for several days. So we really should take care of our self-hygiene. And also make sure that we do physical distancing for at least 1 meter, because the virus, as we know, the coronavirus spread through droplets. So we really should maintain our distance, and also masks. Since well, previously public were so confused what kind of mask they use, but it was only yesterday that the WHO updated their mask recommendation. So for us who are in a healthy condition, we really should wear our mask, just like our government also recommended. We really should wear masks all the time. For us, we can use a reusable mask from cotton. And for people who are sick, they can use a medical mask. But really, we should really use masks all the time. And don't forget to disinfect and do proper disposal, because this is one of the issues that we previously had no clue on. We really didn't know how to dispose medical waste. We really didn't know what kind of waste we produce, even at individual level or at household level. So this is the information that we're also a lot of people were looking at. And for business and retail industry, just like Mbak Intan previously said, I was really impressed by Mbak Intan's presentation, because apparently the data talks so much. The data tells us a lot about what's going on during the pandemic. So what we can do is also for those of you who has your own business and run business during this pandemic, you can make sure that the process is hygiene, that the packaging is hygiene, and make sure that the workers, especially for the big industry, make sure that the workers are using PPEs And then please avoid single-use plastic for packaging, and then disinfect items prior to distribution. I think that's the sort of things we can do to minimize medical waste. So what we did with DCA, what CISDI did with DCA since March, is that we agreed that the pandemic has environmental impact, definitely, and we also make sure that we do something about it. So in March, when we celebrated Earth Day, we had a discussion where we invited experts to say something about to share their sense on the pandemic and how we reflect the Earth Day and how we celebrated Earth Day in a different way. And we also launched our campaign, #Pilah Agar Musnah, where we encourage our peers to sort their waste from household level. So they separate their waste. The possible infectious waste is also separated from the plastic waste. We want to make sure that everybody has participated in that campaign. Also, we also had two other discussions about when we celebrated the Environmental Day, and then what sort of behavior changed or what sort of new behaviors occurred during the pandemics. Because at the end of the day, when we understood how it happened and what changes, I think we can also start to educate ourselves that, okay, there are some things that we can do to minimize medical waste, and so that we can go through the pandemics well, and while also making sure that our environment is clean and safe. And this is the latest joint effort from DCA and CISDI, and we're really proud to introduce this what do you call this book to all of you guys, because this is the first time we really introduced this book. So this pocket book contains information about self-prevention and prevention at individual levels, while also contain information on what we can do to minimize medical waste, what kind of how do you process medical waste, what can you do with the community, so that we can go through this pandemic while keeping our environment safe. So this is a little bit of teaser from our newly launched pocket book. So not only we talk about health, but also about the environment itself. For example, in this slide, we really broke down the information about what kind of PPE can be used by the health workers, and how and what kind of PPE can public and common people can use. We really talk about the scarcity of PPE for the health workers, and what can we do to help them get the PPE they deserve, and what can we do to protect ourselves. And at the same time, at the second part of the pocket book, there are quite a lot of discussion about the environmental impact of the pandemic. So including how is the process of medical waste disposal, where are the locations of the incinerators to process medical waste. I think that's, even though the information is quite basic, but we really want to make sure that everyone get the strong grasp on what they can do in their individual level. So the pocket book is available online now, today. So first of all, thank you so much for the DCA team for putting up with the book writing. It was quite time consuming. We really did our best for it. So congratulations for DCA and the CISDI team. And we really hope that the book can become a way for us to educate not only ourselves but also our communities, so that we can take a real action in protecting not only ourselves but also the earth. I think that's pretty much all from me. So please support our pocketbook. And if you have any comments and if you have any inputs, please feel free to share through DCA or CISDI team's social media accounts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yayan, for that amazing presentation and like the simple things you can do at home to keep yourself safe and like properly disposing things so it doesn't affect the environment. I think a lot of people are very much not aware of those kind of things. They just make sure that they're fully covered like an astronaut and like dump it back to Bantar Gebang.
Exactly.
No. Okay, so our last speaker of the day is Christy Tanjung. She's actually our communication manager for DCA. She graduated from the Faculty of Public Health, University of Indonesia in 2017. She's handling both social media and mainstream media, campaign, education, external relations, as well as several projects and event management of DCA. She's a superwoman. A firm believer in prevention and promotion due to her education and a passion for youth movement. She hopes through her work that crucial information can be received and understood by people from all backgrounds and capacities to spark positive behavior change from each individual for the environment. So without further ado, Christy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Nesh. Can you see my slide? Yeah, okay. So I'm not gonna talk too much. I think Kayan already explained it beautifully before me. I'm just gonna add a little bit about the importance of accessible public information and how the health and environment issues can go hand in hand. And we really need everyone's help to, navigate this issue, especially through this pandemic period. So let's do a little throwback to our 2019 cleanup data. DCA finds that single-use plastic is still a huge problem in our country. It's hard to collect, it's hard to recycle, so we need to act and address this issue. But unexpectedly, unfortunately, this year we are faced with this pandemic that forces us to change and forces us to adapt. The first adaptation we did, of course, instead of doing field work, we switched to remote work, but we still connect with all our stakeholders and program collaborators. But we also want to make sure that the recycling activities are also prioritized, even though most of the logistics shipment and recycling centers are not working like it used to before the pandemic. But then we have to also adapt because we get reports on why is there mask and other single-use PPE waste found in oceans, it's found on riversides, it's also found on the side of the street. And we're not sure, is this related to the pandemic or not? Is this risky or not? That's why we were looking for a strategic partner. And eventually we contacted our friends, Kayan and her team in CISDI. And we asked them, is this dangerous or not? Is this issue should be lifted or not? And can we connect it to the health and environment issues? And apparently we can. After a few webinars and also asking to a lot of experts, we concluded that we need to keep campaigning and educating on this matter to make the public actually choose to use reusable things. But if they can't, they have to separate and cut their masks or other PPEs before disposing and wisely segregate it, because all these kinds of waste cannot go to the usual dumping sites because these are hazardous. And if they do, it will risk exposure to waste collectors, which are a group of people that we sometimes forget are actually impacted by our waste from the COVID pandemic. And that's why we think that accessible public information is key. So amidst the restriction, we couldn't do our community development and cleanups a lot because there's limitation on a number of people that can actually be in one place. But we believe that combating marine debris issue from the source is still what matters. So we keep collaborating with the government and local communities. We still do our project, especially our Save Our Ocean and Small Islands project, through community capacity building, cross-sectoral coordination. We still encourage recycling, and we also built our refill stores. Well, we thank the internet for that, so we can still connect with all our community development sites. But of course, with change, we have to adapt. We also adapt by adding a few programs to our projects, like the one on the left. We found out that a lot of health workers, they use single-use plastic as a cover for their phone because they don't want to touch their phone with hands that might be infected by the virus, which we totally understand. But then at the end of their shift, they're going to throw away the plastic waste. And yeah, we think that's not very good for the environment. So we decided to donate to health workers in a few hospitals reusable phone holders so they can safely disinfect it and then wash it when they get home. And then they can also take out their phone and then touch it again with their bare hands without, being afraid that it was exposed to the virus. And on the left, on the center, you can see that we distributed from our refill store. We have hand washing soap that is in reusable packaging, and we distributed that to our local community targets. As you heard from Bang Begin before, a lot of people in coastal areas and small islands, their incomes are greatly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So it might not be at the forefront of their mind to actually buy soap, but they can barely afford food. So we decided to take this angle as well. And on the right, you also see that we built this simple hand washing booth that doesn't need running water, but it can also run from above, so they can tilt the water container. And we also do a lot of webinars with our local communities to prepare them for what's going to happen after the pandemic, such as, quoting Bang Begin again, there's going to be like this sort of tourism boom after the pandemic, and how do we manage our environment so it stays sustainable even though the tourism is going to shoot up. We also learned from previous webinars that we have to educate, especially to innovators. So this is a curve of the population, like maybe not so many percentage of population are actually innovators or early adopters of innovation, but we really need this small group to be informed and to impact and do a snowball effect on behavior change. And that's why we do all these kinds of webinars. But maybe for the people on the latter end of the curve, they need policy, and that's why we also advocate with the government to do this and that in policy making. But as I think Nesha has repeated over and over again, that's so optimistic, so optimistic. One of the things that we would also like to spread is keeping the earth optimism, as maybe we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we think like, why should I care about the environment, even though all these uncertain times are happening? But our volunteers and stakeholders from other areas are keeping up their awesome work, especially in celebration of World Oceans Day and today Coral Triangle Day. So shout out to our volunteers in Samarinda. They were doing cleanup, and this is a throwback photo of our volunteers in Lampung. In Manado, they're also doing cleanup. In Palu, in Semarang, in Gorontalo, and you can also see in Papua, in Bali, and also in Bandung, in Jakarta. And we also have to give a huge shout out to our friend in Anambas. You can see a clip of their video here. They were like lifting this huge cluster of ghost fishing net. And these kinds of actions should spark the optimism that we still can do good for Earth, and with new protocols, of course, but we still are optimistic that the Earth can be sustainable with our behavior change. So the spirit is still there, and the reason to care for our own waste is actually stronger than ever. Why? I quoted a representative from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, where it was said that the COVID-19 situation will be finished in Indonesia, not if the last patient has been cured, but if the last infected waste has been treated. So how can you help? First one, of course, that was the one that Kayan has beautifully explained about our pocketbook. It's an accessible and credible public information. And what's more important is it's not simple, but you don't have to interpret anything more. You can just read it and do it, because there's sometimes a lot of wrong interpretation regarding information. And I think that's why we think that this book is going to be very helpful, and you can spread it to your friends and to your colleagues and to your family. And on the right, we also have this movement called Pawai Bebas Plastik Online. Maybe we're going to play a video, but be aware that the music is kind of loud. So yeah, you can play the video.
Kita hari ini berpawai bersama. Kita kampanyekan tolak plastik sekali pakai.
Okay, so that was like a highlight video of our last year, Pawai Bebas Plastic. Unfortunately, we can't do the same thing because it's going to be like a 5-star hotel for the coronavirus to spread. But although we cannot do it offline, we can do it online, and our demands actually remain. The first one is we demand the government to ban single-use plastic in a national scale. The second one is the government moves toward a better waste management systems. Like instead of giving incentive to the plastic industry, why not give it to the recyclers? And the third one, the producers and businesses are actually responsible for their own waste. In response to what Dr. Intan has been saying, and also Buroro has been saying, the escalation of online shopping and deliveries is massive right now. And maybe we as consumers also would like the option to, pick to opt that we don't want that much plastic in our packaging. We want less or no plastic. So I think it's really important that we shout out these demands in times like this. And how can you help and collaborate? You can check our social media afterwards. And maybe in this week, we're gonna let you know how you can join as an individual and also as a community. And maybe I'm gonna close with key messages from our previous webinars and also yesterday's webinar and today. So we would really like to convince and make people believe that waste is actually related to health. So our choices for the environment today may affect the future pandemics. And the importance of accessible and reliable information for the public is very crucial. And we have to make changes from ourselves and from our own home. We have to evaluate, act, and prepare for a new normal. And we have to do this sort of positive behavior change and persuade others too. As we know that behavior change is motivated by immediate rewards, social incentive, and progress monitoring. And we have to create this sort of atmosphere to appreciate a lot of positive behavior changes so that it's became a snowball effect and everyone is, going towards a positive behavior for our health and also for our environment. So I guess that closes my presentation. For more info, you can go to these social media links. And thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy, everyone. Thank you, Nesha. I give it back to you.
Thank you so much, Christy, for that presentation and letting people know that they can do something for the environment, but keeping safe as well. I'm going to move forward to the Q&A now. And the first question goes to Bang Begin. And it's from Jovanka Rivalda. It's from the Zoom question. He is wondering, what are the efforts of coral conservationists to keep preserving the corals during the pandemic?
Yeah, and this is a hard question. Yeah. So as we consider during the pandemic, there is no activity, especially for diving. So some activity about coral reefs restoration. So they have a monitoring activity. So they also stop the monitoring activity, and then some corals should be replaced or clean up. And during the pandemic, we cannot do anything. So let the ocean heal themselves. And then related to the bleaching event, is it what we can do? What we can do now is just it's just like a blast. During the bleaching event, there is no tourism that give the pressure to the coral reefs area. So hopefully the coral will be recovered as soon as possible. So for the recovery, the corals, we can help them to stop the pressure, especially from tourism, or not only tourism but also waste from the domestic waste. It's also a big pressure to the coral reef area. So that's what we can do. And then since the diving activity will start soon, So what we can do also, we should so that's important things that we know where the the bleaching event take place. So we should identify where is it, and then we share information to the government, and then the government include the local government, so they can manage the area that can be visited by the tourists. So we can close the area. Probably the government can close the area until the corals can recover. I think that's we can do for saving our corals. But important things that I should mention for us during after the COVID, during the new normal activity for diving, it will be a lot of disinfectant that can be used, should use by the diving operator for the disinfect the diving gears. So we should manage where we can dump the disinfectant. So we will use a lot of soap for the cleaning, the cleaning of the dive gear and our body. Probably after diving, we not used to shower, but during the COVID, probably more than 2 times we have a shower. So we should consider probably dive clean action, make a protocol how to dump the disinfectant, how to manage the disinfectant from diving industry. During a lot of webinar about the diving during COVID, they said we should use the disinfectant or soap, but they not mention how to manage the waste. So it's time for you guys, the millennials, to think, to find a way to manage the disinfectant. So this is because mostly they directly dump into the water, which is the coral reefs are there. I think that's what we can do for the next diving or tourism activity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bang Begin. That's really great. Especially, I think an advice to everyone using the soap should find like a very eco-friendly soap that's friendly to the environment, friendly to the coral reefs. It's a lot of brands now in Indonesia alone are coming up with that. So next question is to Dr. Intan. This is from Metrini Weaver from Zoom. Wondering about, do you have national data or pipeline on percentage of single-use plastic products that ends up in the ocean?
Right. So my colleague Reza has been very active in monitoring plastic, not just in the rivers, but also stranded plastic in beaches. So I think Reza has published it. Maybe DCA was also involved in it. There's a initiative that is spearheaded by WRI as the depository of the data. So yeah, LIPI is actually spearheading on the data for stranded beach debris. So we do have that. You can send us your, contacts, and we'll be in touch with you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. This is for Mbak Yeyen. This is from Toresi Angeswara. She is wondering, concerning the incinerator presence in hospitals, is it also considered the impact of toxic coming out from the incinerators?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. DCA and CISDI several weeks ago really came up with an understanding that it is not only health workers who require extra protection, but also people who work at the disposal facilities who also require extra protection. And I think that is an understanding that we come up right now during the pandemic. And yes, the toxic, we really should be aware of the toxic and the impact it creates to the people who work to make sure the cleanliness of our health facilities. So right now what we can do is to make sure that the workers in charge of the cleanliness is also protected with the PPE. And what we can learn from this situation is that, like Mbak Roro has previously said, we can always advocate to our policymakers to increase the number of incinerators and autoclaves so that we can always minimize the impact of the toxics so that medical waste can be processed right away and they can be disposed right away properly. And yes, there's always consequences in that matter, but we can make sure that that won't happen again in the future. And so yeah, the workers, the disposal facility workers, the incinerator workers, they also require extra protection for that. I think you're on mute, Mbak Nesha.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I've got another question from Nadira Febiansari. And as we're entering the new normal, what are the recommended actions should be taken to ensure we have enough protection while doing normal activities, especially for public transportation users like her?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the question, Nadira. Yes, we're right now entering the new normal. The local government of Jakarta, especially, they have implemented new normals. And right now, this is the second day people going back to work. Even though the number of COVID cases is still increasing, and today the number of COVID-19 cases in Jakarta itself is increasing significantly because of the new normal, because of the relaxation of the restriction. But what we can do to protect ourselves is that we make sure that we protect ourselves with masks all the time, whether we're healthy or not. If you're not healthy, then you should wear medical masks because it has the best rate of protection among all other masks. But when we're in healthy condition, we can use reusable masks to minimize medical waste and to minimize plastic use. And also, we really have to make sure that we stay away from each other still. If you see that your surrounding is really tight, then you really should separate yourself from the crowd. Make sure that you're 1 meter away from each other, because that's the least we can do. If there's no other option to stay at home, then we probably are required to do it, because not all of us are privileged with staying at home. And also don't forget to wash your hands every now and then, because that's that's what the WHO really required us to do and always remind us to do. So despite the unfortunate situation, individual protection is key to make sure that we don't get ourselves infected and we keep our community from getting infected. And also reusable masks to really minimize the use of single-use masks. And that's what we can do best.
Thank you. And the last question is for Karoro. This is from Petra from Twitter. And he is wondering regarding the targets of the SDGs in Indonesia and globally. Are we going to reach it by 2030, considering there's a COVID-19 pandemic going around? Is it going to be, obviously, I think it's going to be delayed, but what are your thoughts on it? Are we even going to reach the target by 2030?
Okay, so the question was primarily about the Sustainable Development Goals, right, by 2030. You know what? The pandemic has put a halt in so many things, not only the implementation of the SDGs, but also in terms of economic progress, right? Economic growth. Just a really small example, we were set to be the 5th largest economy by 2045, with an economic growth of around 5.4%. even more than that. But now we're at around like 3 point something percent, as caused by the pandemic. And so again, this pandemic has put a halt on several things, but I think with regards to the progress that's been made in Parliament, for example, in Commission 7, we are working very hard in achieving SDG 7 and SDG 13, but acknowledgingly also, that other commissions within the Parliament also has a responsibility. There are, as we know, the SDGs cover several themes, whether it be poverty alleviation or climate action, affordable and clean energy. There are so many different goals, and this links directly to the different commissions that are in Parliament. So not only Commission 7. So my take on this is that from the policy side, from the parliamentarian side, we are actively engaging on the conversation with regards to the SDG implementation. We are trying our best to make sure that this is legally binding. So at least, for example, we already have a target for 2025, right? So that's even before the 2030 target. And so I think my role here is to remind my friends in Parliament, again, through, I guess, in this sense, through the Green Economy Caucus as well, because we have representatives from different commissions, to at least remind them what SDG goal they are what SDG goal they're looking to achieve by 2030, and just having that conversation of whether or not that is possible to do or not. As for Commission 7, we are still in line to the goal of achieving SDG 7 and 13. So hopefully we'll be on track on that. But with regards to the other SDGs, again, the conversation is still ongoing. And thank you for the question, actually. So this is my homework to make sure that we have the discussion going in Parliament.
Thank you so much, Karoro. And with that, I would like to wrap up this session of amazing speakers and wonderful questions from everyone. And of course, like wrapping it up with Earth optimism. I'm not just saying this to just sound too optimistic, but if you look at the trend from the last decade or 2 decades, the amount of information and like progress that we've made just because we were able to share more information through social media, it's amazing. So there's a reason to be optimistic. And as a youth, you have to. You kind of live on this planet for a while now. So with that, I would like to give back the room to Jasmine from US Embassy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Banesha. All right, so earlier in the event, we all asked you, are there any positive impacts on the ocean due to COVID-19? And the correct answer is yes. Studies show that the temporary shutdown of activities on the seas and land has given the ocean the space to recover from pollution, overfishing, and the impacts of climate changing. So, woohoo! Shout out to Sweet Nadia Puspalestari from Facebook for answering correctly. Terima kasih, Mbak. And thank you so much for everybody participating at tonight's event. Don't forget to stay tuned next time, and maybe you'll get a chance to get a shout out from us. And you may be wondering, how can you develop an awesome idea at an awesome place like this? Don't worry, it's really easy. You can just go to our website at www.adamerica.or.id and select Create a Program and go to Collaborate with us. All of our proposals will be reviewed, and maybe your event might be featured here soon. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter while you're on our website, so you get direct information sent straight to your inbox weekly. And this wraps today's event. It's been fun, everybody, but we have to say goodbye. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at AT America, and also follow our Instagram account, Facebook, and Twitter for fun content, updates, and so much more. I'm Jasmine, and have a good night, everybody. See you at the next At America TV event. Bye-bye.